So the center has been working with members of the News Commons for years now, for 12, 13 years on content sharing. We have helped content sharing between news organization to news organization, hyperlocal to hyperlocal. We've provided photos, videos, graphics over the years, mostly on an ad hoc basis. It's been hit or miss. We didn't have a platform years ago that some folks might remember called iCopyright's Repub Hub that some members of the News Commons really liked. That closed and went away. And since then, we've continued to do things on an ad hoc basis. It's mostly emailing links back and forth, sending out newsletters. And a lot of it has been in cooperation with NJ Spotlight News. And John Mooney is here today from NJ Spotlight News because they make all of their content available for republication to News Commons members. And we decided, thanks to your input, members of the News Commons, that you wanted something that was easier to use, that was more formal, so that you could pick up stories to help fill your products as you need, and that you also wanted a cleaner avenue to be able to highlight great stories that you're doing for larger statewide news organizations, so a two-way path. So we're tackling this in two ways. One, thanks to some funding from Google, we are going to build a content sharing platform. We're going to bring a content sharing platform to New Jersey to make it easier for you to share content, text, videos, images between news organizations in the state. And then second, we are making a hire for someone to run that platform and work with you directly. We'll announce that hire in a couple of weeks. We're just finishing the final paperwork. It's a person who's a very experienced editor, who some of you may know in the state. And that person's role will be to not only make sure that this platform is working, but work with you to help you localize stories, to help you get data from the state, help working with NJ Spotlight to feed their content to you, and also to help you when you have stories, if you need extra set of eyes or editing on, or you think it's something that should be picked up more widely, this person will be working in that middle role to help you. So today we are talking about the content sharing platform, the first piece of that. We put out an RFP, which I can drop it in the chat if anyone wants to look. And we got 4 responses to this RFP. And we have narrowed the responses down now to 2. And those folks are here today, Distributed Media Lab and Plucky Works, and they're both going to demo their platforms. So as we're going through this, if you have any questions, please drop those in the chat. We wanted to, with these proposals, we're looking for platforms that minimize the amount of copying pasting you have to do, allow you to seamlessly add your content, allow you to easily see content that's available to you, allow for grouping of content, exclusion of specific content, and especially allow for some analytics. That's something we've heard loud and clear as we've surveyed you, that you really need to know who's picking up your content and where it's being used. And so DML and Plucky Works both meet most of these requirements, and we wanted you to see them before we go forward and make some sort of decision. So with that, we'll start with Distributed Media Lab, D before P. That's the only reason. Alphabetical order today. So Dave Gehring, please take it away. And folks, as a reminder, drop questions in the chat. So Dave, floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I thought for the sake of background, Distributed Media Lab, is a content distribution platform used by publishers and brands. Our goal really was to facilitate content sharing, but in a package that didn't require publishers to do anything, and also enabled monetization of that package. Oh, hey, Sue. Good to see you. It's fun to see some familiar faces. So there's really 2 different use cases. One use case is when a publisher wants to republish a story natively. And then the second use case is when a publisher doesn't want to do any of that work, but does want to carry third-party content on their site. Our platform was really built for the second use case. And we work with a lot of different folks to enable the first use case. But with that, I'll show you how it works. Let me just share my screen. And I can talk you through the platform, and then I'll show you some live examples of what we're doing with a bunch of publishers here in California as an example. So this is the Publisher Hub. So the flow that we want to enable is one where you can contribute content, um, articles, videos that are for the purpose of being shared with other publishers. So to enable that, we're either going to be, depending on when we launch, enabling a submissions tab in this platform, or it'll be a content submission form like a Google form. From there, you submit a URL for whatever content you want to share, and then we take it from there. So what we effectively do in the back end is deconstruct the content into content blocks, make those blocks available for republishing in DML's platform for DML distribution, which I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. And then, depending on when we launch, making those blocks available in a directory for republishing natively as a second alternative. Now, when DML is republishing those stories and distributing them through DML distribution, those stories get turned into articles that get listed on the articles tab of the Publisher Hub. And then you can add those articles to a collection. So for instance, if I wanted to add, let's see, let's find a one. Let's see. Okay, so here's one by San Jose Spotlight. And just for the sake of this demo, I want to add it to the, I built a test New Jersey news collection. And so I'm adding it to the New Jersey news collection. It'll tell me when it's been added. And so then I go back to articles or collections. And I look for the New Jersey news collection article. And I see that the San Jose Spotlight article has been added to that collection. This gives me a preview of what the collection looks like in a 4x1 layout. And then also it gives me analytics so that I can see how that collection is performing on my domain, or if this collection is embedded on other domains. The use case that we have here in California is we've got one California news collection that is composed of stories from about 20 different sources, and that collection is embedded on about 30 local news websites throughout the state. And when I'm looking at that collection, I can click on the Analytics tab, and I can see how that collection is performing on a daily basis or on a per domain basis. And it's, again, placed on about 30 domains. And so it lists off all the domains and how it's performing across that network. I can also see how the content is actually performing, like which stories are actually getting the most engagement. And then also I can see where is the collection placed. So again, it's placed on about 30 different sites, and I can see which sites are actually performing in what order across that time frame in our own analytics. Now, when you place the collection on a host site, like here's an example of the California News Collection placed on the Long Beach Post. They have the 3x1 layout. And when they place this on the collection, now the Long Beach Post doesn't have to do anything. There's an editor at KQED that picks the stories. And when they pick the stories, they automatically are distributed through this feed out to this collection on whatever site the collection is embedded. And when a user clicks on it, it opens up a viewer and allows the user to engage with the content and other stories within the collection without leaving the Long Beach Post. So this is basically just a vehicle for enabling the distribution of third-party content in a way that doesn't send the users around or send the users off-site. The reason we did it that way originally was because we wanted to also use this as an opportunity for sponsorship. So in this case, the collection is also currently sponsored by the Monterey Bay Aquarium. That sponsorship provides a revenue opportunity that we share with the publishers that have this hosted on their site. And the sponsorship in this case was sold by KQED, but there's other sponsorships in the pipeline that are being sold by other publishers in the network. Another layout that is available, kind of newly available, is a full page layout like on Mendocino Voice. They added a full page for this California news collection, which then allows them to do a whole lot of other stuff with that page. But the collection effectively behaves the same way, where when a user clicks on a link, it launches the viewer and allows the user to engage with the content that is selected by the editor. And then they haven't left the Mendocino voice. Now, I understand from Stephanie that you all have discussed a use case where you want to have the ability to actually manage the collection's content on your own site. So the way we do that is we'll create a number of New Jersey news collections that then are managed by you within your own account for the Publisher Hub. So
Well,
then
one
you
point
can
on that, real quick for Dave, just to clarify. We've heard from some publishers that um, if they use this, they might not want just a feed of state news. Some of them want a feed of state news. Some want just news pertinent to South Jersey, or they only want news out of Trenton. They just want state government news, or they only want things pertaining to healthcare. And so how could we customize that for publishers? Just one more note on that.
Yeah, I mean, the way to customize it is to have a collection for a publisher that is composed of stories that the publisher chooses. So, all the stories may be by default put into the collection, but then you can delete stories. You can add other stories to the submission form that you want to make available in the articles list for adding to your collection. You can basically manage your own collection on a personal basis. DML's platform enables both either network-wide distribution of a singular collection, like the California News Collection or others that we have embedded on multiple domains, or also a collection that is intended to be specific to the domain that it's on. And so you'll have the ability to actually tailor the content to the collection on your site through the Publisher Hub, and then also see how the collection is performing in the analytics through the Publisher Hub. Now, the analytics shows how the collection is performing and how certain pages are ranking in terms of engagement. But if we're talking about content that's coming from multiple third parties, so say for instance, we're talking about a collection that is composed of stories from 10 or 20 or 100 different publishers, what we do for the articles is when we are, like, for instance, this article by San Jose Spotlight is when it's published to a DML hosted page, this template can have San Jose Spotlight's Google Analytics ID on it. So now San Jose Spotlight can see how their story is performing in their own analytics across DML's distribution. So to do that, when we create the template, we just ask the publisher for a Google Analytics ID, and then we add that to our system so that then DML shows up as a referral source in their own Google Analytics. But that's pretty much the flow.
One question going back to the very beginning, just I want to emphasize this point in case anyone missed this. So the way that articles get into this hub, can you just talk more about like how like publishers could give you like a full RSS feed, or they could decide that only certain content gets shared with the network of other New Jersey news organizations?
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of changed or evolved or kind of added a whole lot of different ways to get stories to us. So, for instance, if a publisher wants to give us an RSS feed of stories that are tagged for sharing, that's great. If a publisher just wants to copy and paste the URL of a story into the submission form, then we take it from there, and that's great.
So like one story at a time you could do.
Yeah, they could do one story at a time, or they could do a bunch of stories at a time. The DML platform originally was designed to index the entire, kind of like a subset of the entire web, so that we had URLs to select from in composing collections, and those URLs were, canonical URLs in many cases. And so the backend enables both in many other use cases in terms of how to ingest the content. In some cases, we're actually creating collections based on content that a publisher is publishing to their site that gets tagged to a particular topic. So like anything marketplace publishes on marketplace.org that is relevant to Texas. We'll create a collection that is basically just auto updating with all of those stories that are Texas relevant for Texas local public media stations to embed on their site.
Right. And then John had a question above about a sub collection. John, can you unmute real quick? Does that answer your question? Like how Dave was talking about
Well, I'm just yeah, I mean, if I'm as your example of somebody just looking for state government or just looking for South Jersey, is there, rather than scanning through everything, is there an easy way? And I think it did. I see Sue Cross, hi Sue, had a question about that.
Yeah, Sue's question was, does every participating editor have to look through all the stories and create their own sub collections manually? Or if folks wanted health news or they wanted just Trenton news, can we create that and then just give you the code and that just runs on your site and then our editor will add things to the collection?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you know what? We've been doing this for about 8.5 years now. And, at the beginning of the conversation, it usually starts out with people saying, oh, I want to be able to manage my own collections and choose stories for my own collection. And then usually like the next meeting is, yeah, we don't want to do that. Nobody has time for that. And so originally we built the platform with that use case in mind because we naively thought that editors wanted and had time to actually curate collections that were based on topics that they may have been writing a story about at the moment or publishing a story about at the moment. And then we realized that, yeah, that's not the way it works in the newsroom. Nobody has time for that. So some people may want to do that still. But what we've morphed into is more a model where you want an environment collection, you want an education collection, you want a state news collection, you want a local, just my part of the state collection, whatever the topic is, whatever the region is, you can create collections based on, around that topic. It's just a matter of how do we create those collections with content from third parties in a way that doesn't require publishers to do any work. So we don't want publishers who are contributing stories to need to deconstruct their stories themselves. So we've basically automated either with humans or now also with some tech that we're building to basically automate the ingestion of content, which involves chunking the content up into blocks for the sake of republishing through our system. But then those blocks can then also be made available for for the use case that still comes from time to time where you want to republish natively a story and provide proper attribution, but it's a story that you think is that relevant to your audience. You want to have a native republished version of it. That's basically what the blocks would be used for as well.
Does that answer those questions, John and Sue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, yeah, I guess seeing it, actually walking through it, I don't know if that's a part of this process, but
Yeah. And the thing that, that's a little different about New Jersey is we are hiring at the center a person to help you because
Awesome.
Publishers are really busy. And
Yeah.
Some publishers want content because they want to fill products. They want to add some state or some healthcare news or environmental news to their news products. Others want to localize stuff that John's doing. John is spitting out a ton of stuff statewide, and he's got a ton of data that he just does not have the people or the time to localize. And so that is something that our editor will do. Jason's got, wants to know, one of his shore towns, what are the numbers for these 3 towns, and our editor will be able to say, here Jason, here's the story and here's the numbers from these 3 towns if you want to take this and localize it. So we will have that middle person. Dave,
Which is great. Like here in California, that person is Billy, and he works for KQED, and he's from there, and he's in constant communication with us, and everyone sends him. We got started out where everyone would email him a link to the story they wanted to have included in the feed, with the goal being let's turn Billy into the guy who's everyone buys him drinks at the next journalism conference. And we're pretty close to that at this point, given the distribution. It's pretty powerful.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Aaron wants to know because can this work with Newspack? He's on Newspack.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of we have collections embedded on tons of Newspack sites, as you can imagine, and we curate content from tons of Newspack-based publishers.
So one of the issues that I have that I'm trying to figure out, and then let's move to Johnny, is also as Mooney has content from Spotlight that we want to localize for Jersey City or Verona, or a town along the shore or wherever it may be. My editor would still then have to email that content or get it to those news orgs in a different way, because you can't like send content that's half done through DML and work on it in the platform, can you?
I mean, if the editorial workflow is where Spotlight has a story that you want to republish, but with a localized angle to it,
Yeah,
then yeah, the local publisher is probably going to be in the best position to actually
just do it
do
on in their CMS.
localization. Yeah, and then so I would imagine they'll just look at the story and then write that story from their local
That
perspective.
would happen outside of the system.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions for Dave?
Quick other one, and I'm sorry if I missed this already. How are publishers again notified that new data is there or new stories are there, or is that an email alert, or how do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that when stories are submitted and stories are processed for redistribution through DML, then the publisher who submitted the story gets a notification, and then the publishers who have the collections hosted on their site can either get an email saying there's more stories available, but that's going to be happening on a daily basis. So I would imagine this would just be if the publisher with the collection hosted on their site wants to manually curate that, and they have time to do that, then this is just something that they'll look at on a daily basis to see what stories are available and add, or delete, and go from there.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks,
All right,
Dave.
Johnny, floor is yours now. Show us Plucky.
Okay, great. So I'm going to share my screen here, and then we'll get to it. Okay. Stephanie, can you see my whole screen? It says like automatic
We
RSS.
can. Yep, we see this
reports.
Montclair presentation. Yep, you're good.
I
Okay,
see your
awesome.
taskbar and everything.
Okay, great. So I'm going to switch between a few tabs in a minute, but I've got a little slideshow here that'll give you a high-level introduction, and then I'll show you, we have a similar widget to DML, and I'll show you how that works on a mock site that we have, that kind of thing. So first, thank you very much for inviting me to talk, and I'm here to talk to you about Plucky Wire. So this is the flagship product for the company that I run called Plucky Works. And the goal of Plucky Wire is to build a national wire service for local news. And we really focus on small and scrappy newsrooms that don't have a lot of budget, don't have a lot of time, don't want to invest a week learning how to use some new tool. The whole idea is that it's dirt cheap and it's simple and it just works. So I'm going to give you an overview of some of the features that Stephanie flagged for me as the ones that you're most interested in learning about, which are the ones that allow frictionless sharing. So as Dave mentioned, where DML, by his account, started more with the automated sharing, and now they're trying to go into more curated. We started with manual curation. So that was the first round of features that we built Plucky Wire for. But actually, since we submitted our bid to Montclair, we've added a bunch of new features that are specific for frictionless sharing. And so those are the ones that I'm going to focus on today. But I'm happy to, during the Q&A part, to show you some of the manual curation features as well. And we'll touch on some of them as we go, but there's more there that I'm not going to talk about. So just a quick introduction on me. My name's Johnny. I started the company. I've been working in documentary film and a historian, an archivist, and journalism usually behind the scenes for the last 10 years. And I've always worked with small newsrooms who never have enough budget, on documentary films that never have enough budget. And I've been the guy who's been asked to build tools to solve practical problems in a timely way, just so we can get the job done. And that's very much the spirit of Plucky Works and the spirit of PluckyWire. So for this frictionless sharing, this set of features that I want to show you today, bottom line here is that you set it and forget it. So we have an RSS feed import feature that I'm going to tell you about, and that lets us take advantage of all of the work that you're doing in your CMS right now to tag and categorize stories and stuff. We take advantage of all of that and we import that to our system. And then we have a JavaScript widget that pulls from the database that we build, and it presents stories in a way that's similar to DML. Of course, there are some differences, but it's largely the same. So I'm going to start with the RSS feed. So this in particular was developed after we submitted our original bid. It's now publicly released and we're refining it with some of our existing partners. So the Conversation US they've been an excellent partner with us as we've been working on this one, because they're an example where they have a ton of stories. They really want them to get out, but Joel at the Conversation does not have time to sit there and curate all the stuff that they're putting out. And so we worked with them to build this feature. So there's two steps for this. First is that once you're registered on PluckyWire and once you're part of the New Jersey News Commons, you just add your feed. And as you all know how this works, you just pop in that URL and then you enable auto imports. You add a few presets because we offer things like boilerplate text and licensing that you want to go on those stories, which outlets this should be affiliated with. And then you're done. You click add. And then it gets sent to Joe or Stephanie or the person that they're going to hire. And you message them and say, wake up, Joe, you got to do something. And then Joe will go and log in and he'll see that you have submitted an RSS feed that you'd like him to approve. And once it's approved, then that RSS feed is piped directly into the content sharing group. So at that point, you're done. And every story in your feed, including photos, will be automatically shared. And once it's automatically shared, you'll be able to, you can, if you want to interact with the stories on the platform, you'll see them in a browser like this. So this is this offers a lot of the manual creation features that we developed originally. You can see all the filters that are available there. You can start to see, these are stories that the Conversation published this morning that I piped in right before this presentation. And you can see all the different things available there. The bottom line with RSS imports is that once your feed is set up, you never touch it again. We ping it every 30 minutes or 10 minutes. You tell us how often you want us to interact with it. And then we're automatically pulling those stories in. And this works for any outlet with a full text RSS feed. And the reason why this is so powerful and has been so appreciated by the outlets we work with, that there's no more cut and paste uploads. For the outlets that don't have RSS feeds working, you can always do manual uploads. But if you've got an RSS feed, and many do, then this gets you around that. And all your photos are automatically uploaded, including all the captions and everything. And if your RSS includes unique IDs, then we can handle corrections as well. So one of the most powerful things about PluckyWire is that if an editor goes into the platform and updates a story and makes a correction, everybody who's already reprinted that story gets an automatic email alert letting them know, hey, yo, a story you just published has gotten this correction. Up to you what you want to do about it, but here's the information and here's with the editor's note and here's a link to the updated story. If your RSS includes unique IDs, we can handle corrections as well. And the most important thing I think about using RSS feeds as opposed to scraping methods is that we free you up to fiercely defend your content against scrapers on your public site. And that's because we're working with you on a private feed that we can obscure however you want. But we want to free you up for your CMS and your browser and everything to defend against bots. so that we don't have to, and we shouldn't have to. This is a server-side connection that we find really helpful. The other part of the frictionless sharing system, so now I've just shown you how you bring everything in, including your tagging and all of the photos and everything, is now we've got this JavaScript widget on the back end. So this is one line of code that you drop in. I'm going to switch over. You can see here that there's a mock-up of a page here. So I'm going to go over into this fake newspaper I made called the Small Town Gazette. Go down to where we've got our feed from the New Jersey News Commons. I just reloaded the page here. So this is pulling the latest stories from the conversation. And here, if I click on this story, so here I can see that there is a photo in this story. I'll open it up, and now we're pulling from our server, and here's everything in that story. So it's a simple display, nothing that fancy about it.
Yeah, John, I was going to say that display is not the same that it appears on the Conversations website, right? That's
I mean, it is the same content, but it's not the same CSS formatting.
Yeah,
Is that what you're asking?
yes, yep. Thank you.
Yeah. So this is content that the conversation gave to us in the RSS form, and then we standardized it in our database, and now we're feeding it out again into this display. Does that answer your question, Stephanie? Okay, great. So because we have this widget, we can track we can track the loads of the widget. We can track which stories are displayed. We can track the clicks on each page, all that kind of stuff. And we pipe that back to our database so that you can see how your stories are performing across the network. But the best thing about this is that in addition to it being small and that it's refreshed all the time, which is typical of how these things work, is that we offer a lot of customization. So a few things came up in Dave's presentation that I want to speak to as well, because I'm guessing there will be similar questions about it. So what do you do if you want to show a specific subset of the feed? So the New Jersey News Commons has hundreds and hundreds of stories, but let's say you only want stuff related to education or about a specific geography or something like that. So each widget is something that you control and you set up on PluckyWire, and you can set all the filters you want on that widget. And you can have multiple widgets. So you could have a widget on your home page that is showing everything from the New Jersey News Commons. In your health section, you could have a widget that's just showing content that was tagged with the health or health and education tag, something like that. You can have stuff. So on the left-hand side of this page here, I'm showing you all of the filters that are available to you when you're setting up your widget. And these are all the same filters that are available when you're manually curating something other than full text. So you can, in the last 24 hours, by word count, the tags. So this, Stephanie and Joe, this is where your staff member, this is where they could be really powerful, because they could just agree with everybody in the platform, or sorry, everybody in the network, that we're going to use these 7 tags. And so everybody in their CMS, they know, okay, if something is relevant to one of those tags, they add it on their end when they're publishing a story. And then that'll get pushed to our CMS, and we'll ingest that tag and we'll respect that tag. So if you have something that is just for northern New Jersey and your staff person helped everybody agree that that's one of the meaningful tags we want to do, then you can filter your widget based on that tag. So, but if people were not, even if they weren't doing it on their end with the CMS, Stephanie and Joe, your staff person could go in and tag stuff appropriately, and then outlets could set up their widgets to filter on those specific tags. You can also filter by licenses. You know, there are some licenses that people aren't willing to comply with for whatever reason. We let you do that. So it's very, very flexible, and you can have multiple widgets across your site, and we handle everything else. You can see on the left here, you can also customize the widget's display. So you can choose whether or not you're going to show photos, whether there are sentence excerpts, publication dates, outlet names, layout styles. So I've shown you that we have 3 layout styles right now. We've got the grid layout, compact layout, and a list layout. You pick how many stories go into any of those layouts. Again, you set it all on PluckyWire, and then we cache it and serve it from there. All you do is set that line of code with the correct widget ID, and we're good to go. So on the other, so the bottom line with this widget is that stories that get fed into the New Jersey News Commons group, whether it's manual uploads or RSS feeds or whatever, those can become stories on your site automatically. And this works for anybody, any outlet that can add a JavaScript widget. Fresh content's going to appear automatically. There's no custom development or manual curation needed, but you can curate the filter with filters if you want to. And you can even run different content on different parts of your site, as I mentioned. The last bit here that I wanted to mention for you is analytics. So we've had basic analytics on PluckyWire. We're only a year old, but we've had basic analytics for a while. But we've recently updated those analytics, so I wanted to highlight those for you. So you can track views, downloads, and page views across the entire network, as well as each individual outlet. And I want to clarify what that means. So views and downloads, those are tracked internally. So let's say New Jersey's PBS is cruising around for stories, and they're seeing a lot of headlines that are interesting, but they're not actually downloading a lot of them. The outlets that are getting views but no downloads, they might want to know that because they want to know that something about their content is interesting, but it's not quite meeting the threshold of wanting to be downloaded. So we track that. We also track the downloads. And now with the widget, we've had a pixel tracker for a while, but with our widget, we also track the page views across the entire network. So what you're seeing here is the New Jersey, this is mock data from August. That's why you see a precipitous drop-off in traffic in August on the little graph there. But you can see group-wide analytics. So Stephanie, Joe, and your staff person, you would see all of that. And then on the next page, I'm going to show you the outlet-specific analytics. So we are now exploring deeper analytical methods beyond what I just described using natural language processing. And the reason why we're exploring this and why I'm mentioning it to you is that we think it's going to reveal some really useful editorial insights, such as using things like topic identification and geotagging. This is going to help you understand when there are gaps in your coverage that people just aren't covering healthcare that much, or public affairs journalism, surprise, surprise, isn't getting read that much. Things like that, you'll be able to find out from this sort of thing. And geotagging would let you understand which parts of the state you're covering well or not well. People have had these techniques around for a while, so we're not breaking any new ground here, but we're applying them in a way that is designed to make these advanced techniques accessible and easy for you to use. At the outlet level, we also provide all these analytics. So you can see which outlets are viewing and reprinting your stories across all of your groups. Because one of the main things that's unique about PluckyWire is that as an outlet, you can exist as a member in New Jersey News Commons, but you could also be subscribed to the Conversations Newswire or the Climate News Task Force Newswire. There are all these groups that are starting up now on the platform, and you can belong to all of them. If you click on any of the view numbers or the download numbers here, brings a pop-up that lets you see all the different which stories are associated with those counts, so you can see who was viewing what when. And then we have a bunch of aggregated statistics, and we can see for recent stories how they've performed. So the bottom line here is that we offer passive story tracking across digital, same as DML. We also cover print, and that's because we do that. Those are the in-platforms tracking that we do of what editors are looking at and what they're downloading. And we have advanced analytics for partners who are using the embedded widget. And this works for every outlet on PluckyWire. And this is going to mean no more time tracking down reprints. I'm sure all of you have inflicted interns with weeks of tracking down where stories went. And we're here to save that time for you and make it so you can use your time on more editorially important things. These passive trackers record interest in your stories by other editors and the actual downloads and the page views. So I'm finishing up now. So just some overall taking a step back. We're a new company. So you might be wondering, why on earth would I be wanting to work with PluckyWire? They haven't been around that long. Maybe they won't be around next week. So we are just a year old, but we're growing very quickly. So we have 137 outlets nationwide that have signed up now. And we have just about 40 new outlets in the last 2 weeks. We've shared more than 8,000 stories and tracked more than 2,000 downloads. In recent developments, just yesterday, we launched a collaboration that's open to all 450 members of the New England Newspaper and Press Association. They're sharing content on First Amendment issues, so we are the provider for that. And just yesterday, we began finalizing the contract with University of Vermont for a statewide content sharing group. That's a similar setup to what you've got in New Jersey. So we're the chosen provider to do that in Vermont. And a couple of weeks ago, we launched a 2-year partnership with Muckrock alongside Dataset and Sunlight Research to facilitate sign-ins and everything across their networks, also with Big Local News. And in June, we won the 2025 Next Challenge competition in the News Tech division. So we're young, we're scrappy.
Busy week for you, Johnny. I mean,
I haven't slept a lot, Stephanie. I have a very large cup of coffee next to me, but I am alive and I hope to make it to the end of this presentation.
All right, good.
So I'm going to share the PDF for this in the chat here, so you can look more at this at the end if you want. But that's it for me. Thank you very much, Stephanie and Joe, and thanks very much to everybody for inviting me to come.
Thanks, Johnny. So a couple questions are in the chat, and then I just want to go back to the beginning because we spent a lot of time talking about your widget and how, how content can display, and there's a couple questions about that. But before we get to those, I just want to back up again to the beginning. So we can put content into your system through RSS feeds, also through one at a time, and then all the publishers can log in and look at what's available. And do they have to use the widget? What if they just wanted one story?
Yeah, so that's so they can select stories one at a time if they want. So that's kind of the default way that the system was built.
Yeah.
So the way that it works in many of our networks is that they all are piping stories in, many of them with RSS now. And so for many of them, it's an automatic process. You can also use RSS just to load them in an inbox, and then you can copy them over one by one if you wanted that kind of control.
Yep.
But then once they're in, then you can manually do all the filtering you want. And when you find a specific story that you like, then we show you the whole story, give you everything you need about it. And then if you decide to download, once you click the download button, we push it to a private RSS feed that you can pipe back into your CMS. We also offer a bunch of simple ways for you to download it locally and copy paste it over into your CMS.
There are some people in our network who really want to maintain that manual control and only put one story at a time, but others will want to use a widget that they curate themselves or that is curated for them. So
yeah, so it covers both of those use cases.
Yep. And then Aaron had a question. Can he submit just selected content, or does he have to give you everything or nothing?
No, he can select. He can choose selected content. So we actually just set this up with a student newspaper in New Hampshire. So they, a lot of stuff that goes on a college campus is the public should not know about that. They should not be reading about shenanigans on those campuses. But there are lots of things that are statewide interest.
Yeah.
And so what they did was that they're tagging stories in their CMS that are of statewide interest. And then they created an RSS feed for us that is only the stories that have that tag. So this is kind of a standard feature in a lot of CMSs where you can set up an RSS feed by category. So that's the way that you could do it. So if somebody if there was an editor who wanted to kind of baby step their way into sharing with the New Jersey News Commons, but they wanted to do it in a semi-automated way, they could, on their CMS, set up this RSS feed and then just add tags for New Jersey News Commons. And everything that was tagged with that, that would get fed automatically into the system, and nothing else would get fed. It's really up to them because they're the one who sets up the RSS feed.
Okay. And then does your system work with Newspack as well?
Yeah, it's agnostic.
Okay.
I mean, for RSS feeds, it just depends on there being the ability to have an RSS feed, and then any CMS that can handle a JavaScript widget, which is all of them, they can all handle it.
Yeah, yep. So Jason also noted the point that I had brought up earlier, that when you clicked on the widget, it did not bring the CSS over from the site. Is there a way to customize that so it does bring the CSS over from the WordPress theme? Because the big concern are in-story links, in-story ads.
So we currently don't have that set up, but that's something. So Stephanie, as you recall, when we bid for this
Yep.
feature didn't exist at all.
Didn't exist.
So, yeah.
Building on the fly, everyone.
Yeah, and the reason why this exists is because we've been working directly with outlets. So everything that you saw right there is because I talked to an editor, and an editor said that would be a useful thing.
Yep.
So if that is something that we'd want to pursue, then we're absolutely willing to pursue that, make it work.
Okay. And Jason, I think I answered your question about print. Our goal with the network is, yes, for folks who have print, to allow you to use network content in print, and that will, we'll have to have an MOU when folks join the network, and it'll say it in there. But I know that John does allow his stuff to go into print now. He does that with, like, Joe Torito on the call. He uses some of Spotlight's content in print, and others do too.
Every week.
Every week, yeah. John just wanted to know, does Vermont include VT Digger?
Yeah, I was just
folks are
curious.
onboarding?
So I know I don't know, there's 35 outlets, and I'm not sure, 35 has got to be close to the entire state. But I
Yeah.
know that separately, Vermont Digger, I forget the name of the woman who reached out to us, but we have a meeting with them in like a week or something.
Well, they're just very comparable to us. That's why I was curious.
Yeah. So they reached out to us, and we have a meeting scheduled with them in a week, but they may be in that University of Vermont group. I just haven't seen the whole list from University of Vermont.
Yeah. And then Sue had a question about producing the widgets by topic. She said, do all the participants need to use the same consistent tagging so the RSS feed tags match up? Or do you scan looking for a way? Like, how do we make sure that if Jason's healthcare stories and John's healthcare stories and Joe's healthcare stories all go into the healthcare widget?
So that's totally the kind of thing where we can we can figure out ways to help streamline that. So the default is that everybody agrees on a couple standard tags. So we have it set up right now so that every group can have 7 topical tags, up to 7 geographical tags, up to 7 editorial tags, things like anonymous sources used or localization possible, something like that. And so the easiest way to automate that is for the editors just to have those loaded up on their CMSs and to add them as appropriate when they're creating the stories. We could, though, so that seems like that should be, my guess is that is going to be possible to do. Yeah. But it would not be difficult to set up some rules so that, like, any tag that has healthcare in the title or health in the title, then like we pipe that over into a tag at the network level that is for healthcare statewide or something like that. Yeah. So ideally everybody would have the same tags on their own CMS, but if that is impossible for some reason, then there are ways to fudge it to make it all work together more nicely.
And when the widget opened up, there's no comments on those stories, right? Okay.
No.
Yeah. Virginia asked about that. Can you submit comments? No, Virginia, on those stories in the widget, you can't. But if you copied and pasted something into my Verona and Jay's CMS and you just like John had a story and you localized and published it on your own website, it would be your own comments, but no, not in the widget.
Stephanie, there was one, earlier there was a question about localization and how DML would handle localization. So this is something, so we are currently handling a lot of local stories that can be localized with the New England Newspaper and Press Association. And so the way that we do that is when you share a story, you can also share a link to like the template for it, or in that story you can include template information, and then you just tag it as something that you want to exclude from automatic reprints. So Joe and Stephanie, this would be a great example of where where your staff person could they would be uploading stories that could be localized or something like that, and then they would just tag it like not for auto redistribution, and then it would be excluded from everybody's reprint, something like that.
And they can work in the system to do that. They could actually use your system as kind of a CMS to work on the localization.
That they shouldn't. I mean, they could technically, but it's much easier for them to take the story, do all the editing using their internal tools that they're comfortable with, and then once the story is done, then push it back to PluckyWire.
Okay. That's the thing on it. That's more of an internal thing for us, but we just have to figure out, because if our new editor is going to be working, in like a bunch of Google Docs here and then uploading, you know what I mean? I just have to figure that out. That's not something for the most publishers to worry about. Although it could be, because if we're working with a publisher, let's say Joe wants to work with our editor to localize some budget content that John's producing.
Yeah.
Where do they work together? Are they going to have to do that in shared Google Docs and then go put it in Plucky when they're done?
Yeah. I'll tell you, long term, like we're reaching farther and farther back into the editorial production pipeline.
Yeah.
So there will be collaborative editors, but that's like a year out or something.
Yeah.
We're not at that point. So I can't promise that that's a thing anybody will get to use. The
What
last thing that
Johnny, go ahead.
I would just flag one more thing that came up earlier. There was a question about story alerts, like how you find out if there's new stuff in the system. So we with some of our outlets, they're just resharing the link every day, and that's the way that they are just letting people, like reminding people, oh, check the system, it's all there. But we also have a feature that is probably getting released next week for daily digests or weekly digests. And so this sends automated emails to each outlet with a summary of all the recent stories that got published across each of their content sharing groups. So if you are part of 3 different groups, then you might get the latest 10 stories that you didn't already publish, because we can know which ones you already published. You would see the latest 10 stories with links to each of them back to PluckyWire, that kind of thing. So it'd be a simple email, it's nothing like, we're not going to be blasting you on your cell phone or something, but we have that in development right now, and it's nearly done. So in the next week or 2, it'd be done.
Okay.
So that one, do you envision that being 10 stories that you're letting people know of, or 5 or 30?
That's the kind of thing where we can make it so that each outlet could pick that. That's easy for us to allow you to customize on your end. And so we're building out the where you are telling us how frequently do you want to get these emails? How many stories do you want to learn about in each of those? Which of your groups do you want to get daily updates for? That kind of thing. That's all part of the menu that we have right now for these daily digests, and that will be available soon.
Any other questions for Johnny or Dave?
My other quick one, you must have run into issues sharing photos, especially AP or any of them.
So you're like licensing issues, you mean?
Yeah.
So the way that we handle that is that that currently each story that gets shared, if you determine the license on that, and we let the outlets filter by the license. So if there is a story that has stuff that is complicated to license or for which you are not allowed to share, then
you can take that out of the feed.
You can take that out. And we're working right now on adding, because right now licenses exist at the story level, but we're adding them at the photo level as well. Because right now, everything that comes into the system, it's all shared under the story level licenses. So like the conversation, even though they pull a lot of AP or Getty photos, whatever, they filter those out before they send them to us. But in the future, we want them to be able to share all of their stuff, whatever they can share under any licenses. And we would let you as the outlet filter out any photos that are by Getty or by Associated Press or whatever that you don't have a license to reprint. Does that answer your question, John?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Aaron has one last question, which is actually something we need to talk about as a network, Aaron, but as well as technology, a tech thing is, are there issues worth mentioning related to sites with paywalls and those without? The vast majority of the news commons do not have paywalls. I would say it's actually probably 70-30 split right now, maybe 65-35. But most of them don't, but some of them do, and some of them want to be part of the network. So how have you handled that elsewhere, Dave or Johnny?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Dave can go first.
If the content is being shared, if the publisher that wants to share content needs to have that content behind a paywall, then we won't carry it, just because a paywall prompt in a third-party pop-up user experience on a host domain is bad for everybody involved. And so we wouldn't carry content if it was going to be subject to a paywall in that third-party distribution. Now, if a collection is embedded on a site that is behind a paywall, then it just operates like everything else behind that paywall. When the subscriber is logged in, they have access to the site. So does that make sense? It's like one is what content we wouldn't carry content that is subject to a paywall and that would need to be adhered to in a third-party domain.
John, are you gonna say?
On my end, because all the sharing is opt-in, you would choose if there is something any story of yours, if it's behind a paywall and it shouldn't be shared, you are the person who makes that decision. And that would be through this way that you build your RSS feed or through what you manually are putting up. And then in terms of where stories are published, that's a network decision, a network level decision. But our technology is not impacted at all by that decision at the network level.
Yeah, we have to talk about that amongst the network as we form it formally over the nenext few months, is for the sites with paywalls, how what content do you share, do you not share? If you share content, you have to know that it's out, if it's going to be on John's site, it's not going to be on a paywall because Spotlight doesn't have one, versus, Jersey City Times, which has a paywall.
Yeah, one thing I might add is that, when DML is displaying a page from a third-party publisher on a host domain in the pop-up window, in addition to carrying that distributing publisher's Google Analytics ID, we can also add to that page template calls to action that may include like subscribe, calls to action that then link to the distributing publisher's website. So we can, and I, encourage publishers that are really trying to grow their email newsletters. This is distribution that is basically a marketing opportunity for that top of funnel activity.
Thank you both so much. We're going to wrap there. Joe is going to send a link to the recording to our publishers and a feedback form for you to give us your input, and we'll go from there. So thank you all so much. Have a good rest of the day.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye-bye.